Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson.
It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
It is so cool to be able to welcome into our crew someone who we had a brief conversation with her once before, but the kind of technical issues and stuff. And I said, just come back and we'll do it the way it should be done, because her new book is really cool. It's called Take a Shot at Happiness, Write, Direct, and Produce the Life You Want. She is herself a producer, a director, been involved in so many projects. She's a PhD. She's one of the most accomplished people I know. Maria Baltazzi, everyone. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, we're excited that you're here. I saw you on The Talk, which is like The View for CBS, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
What was that like? Who's on that show? Is that Julie Chen, or who runs it?
She used to be, no longer. So the moderator is Natalie Morales, and I also spoke with Cheryl Underwood.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And were they receptive to your concepts?
They were so receptive and so welcoming. They made me feel comfortable. Everybody at the talk was just incredibly supportive. They were curious to hear about my book. They want to read my book. It was a fantastic experience.
Oh, wow.
Really,
Good.
really great. Right. And as it turned out, I actually knew the director. We had worked together years ago on another show.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I do want to get into the book, and I have read the book, and I really enjoyed it. And there are all kinds of cool things I want to follow up with you on. But you do come out of these interesting foundational backgrounds that are associated with television, meaning that, I think you went to cinema school, or you went to film school, and you've produced, been a producer on huge shows like Survivor, and,
Right.
a lot of these shows that involve sort of adventure,
Right.
And you reference that in your book. There's some great stuff, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me just ask you first, because this came up the last time you visited. The stuff we see on Survivor and some of these other sort of adventure-related, now that's a reality game, meaning there's somebody eliminated every week and there's a prize at the end. But the reality also during that reality game is that people are put under incredible duress and stress. Yeah. That's all real, right?
That is all real. 100%.
So the outcome is not manipulated in any way?
It can't be, because you are vying for $1 million. So you cannot tamper with somebody else's game. You have to even be cognizant of how you are asking questions, because if you are asking leading questions, then you could be accused of tampering with somebody's game. So you, as a producer, at least when I was doing the show, I was very aware of what I said and how I said it. So even where I stood on the beach, covering story, is that I never wanted to be in a position where a contestant would come back to me and said, you affected my game.
Sure. So especially in these shows where there are alliances that you have to build and this sort of thing, you don't want to be ever accused of, having suggested an alliance or something. I love the psychological part of Survivor, but you also, and you point to this in your book, there's some incredible challenges, and they involve endurance. And this is where, you do this thing in this book, which is designed to give us all, I think, empower us all to other sorts of moments of happiness and transformational aspects to finding happiness in our own lives. Even if we feel ourselves generally happy, there are always ways that you can get more out of life. And one of the things that you, I remember an anecdote in the book. So a lot of the book is based on research, and then you'll throw in some anecdotes, and it's almost got a workshop feel because you ask the reader to take snapshots of their life and of various things. And you can expand on any of this. But the thing I wanted to mention was this incredible anecdote that I wish you would relate to everyone. The one I'm thinking of is an endurance related anecdote. It comes off the set of Survivor. You were there, and the people on Survivor, they're just decimated. I mean, they're famished. They're weakened by all the days out there, by exposure, and then they're put through some kind of endurance test. And I wonder if you can relate to everyone that specific beat in Survivor and how it opened the door to realization on your part.
Well, that is actually one of my very favorite Survivor stories because it was such a defining moment for me. And it was season 2 in Australia. The two tribes had become one, and it was a day when it was so hot and they had no energy whatsoever, and they had to go to a challenge. And they thought that they found out that the challenge was a physical challenge, an endurance challenge. And knowing how fatigued and hungry and tired they were, I thought, oh, well, this is going to be over in a heartbeat. Except the reward was for hot dogs, hamburgers, and sleeping in a warm cot that night. So there was huge motivation to do this challenge. And it went on and on and on until almost nightfall when we finally have a winner. They go off to have their food reward, and I return to the camp with the contestants, only to find out that the tent that they had built in a dry riverbed had been hit by a flash flood. And everything, almost everything, was just washed away. And the contestants, seeing this sight and being hot and hungry and tired, and it's almost nightfall, it broke them. And they collapsed into the sand, and they huddled up next to each other for warmth. And one of the contestants, Elizabeth Hasselbeck,
Sure,
said, "Do you know what day it is? It's Thanksgiving." And I promise you, the game stopped. You could feel a notable shift. And spontaneously, they each took their turn saying what they were grateful for. I'm grateful that I have a fishing hook. I just found it. I'm grateful that I brought a fleece with me to the challenge because now I have something warm. I'm grateful that we have each other in this moment. And I think about this every year at Thanksgiving in particular, because it just reminds me that you can have almost everything taken away from you. You can have very little, but yet still find something to be grateful for. And that was such a huge lesson for me. And when you think about, well, you know, it's a game, it's a controlled environment, but for them in that moment, that was very real to them. And it was one of the most touching moments in the 7 seasons that I did Survivor. That is the most touching, profound moment that I experienced with them, you know, because you take it out into real life and you see, you know, hurricanes, you see earthquakes, you see floods, and you see these families that are crying, and you know there's devastation behind them, but yet they're crying and saying, "I'm so grateful because we still have, you know, our family, we still have our friends," and it's such a beautiful lesson.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think most of the time, most of us are not enduring those cataclysmic events that you describe. It's nonetheless something that you point to in your book. You spent a lot of time on this, actually. It was interesting to me. It was sort of a repetitive theme, I thought, on gratitude and, you know, the grace that can be in your life, you know. And you you, I think, have an experience, but it's not in the book, and I appreciated that it wasn't, that can be underpinned by faith, because there are many who, don't have some kind of organized faith that they ascribe to. It can be, you have it within yourself, and a connectivity I think all of us have to the world around us. I mean, and I think you reflect some of these themes in your book. And but that gratefulness, that the notion of being grateful, is something that you really emphasize in the journey to achieve even greater happiness,
Because it's that important. And the German philosopher Meister Eckhart.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. If he has a saying, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's if the only thing you ever say, the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that will be enough.
Yeah. Because go ahead, please.
Yeah. No. I just think gratitude. It also gives you hope. When you can feel grateful for not having very much, there's hope in that. And one of my teachers, Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, says the definition of depression is sadness without hope.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always felt as though depression, I mean, frankly, depression is an interesting thing because there can be psychological and chemical imbalances, even psychologically, that can affect it. But let's leave that aside for now. I always feel as though getting too lost in a narrative, you lose perspective. And one of the things that gratefulness, or this notion of being thankful, does is it kind of regrounds you and can reframe a lot of your world so that you don't get so caught up in the stuff that's not going well. You also are able to shed light on those things that you are grateful for. It may literally be the fact that that you have life and that you can connect with the life around you. I thought it was a really interesting thing that you really emphasized in your book. The book is sort of, as I say, it's kind of like a workbook. It reminded me of some of the books out of the world of academics in my past, where where you're called upon sort of to do certain things to move to the various levels.
Right. And that was very intentional. Yeah, I created the book that I wished I would have had early in my journey. And it's as you're pointing out, it's a combination book and workbook. And what I do is I write about the happiness essentials, like having faith and love and gratitude and forgiveness, those ideas. And then I ask readers to take their cell phones and take images and then journal about them. And doing this takes the intellectual ideas that you are reading about for happiness and makes those intellectual happiness ideas now hard ideas. You embody them in a way that is specific to you. It's not what some book is saying, well, this is what love is and it's supposed to make you happy. By doing that intentional focus on love as it relates to your happiness, it makes it more specific to you and I think relatable.
Yeah, I think that it's a great way to immediately put you in the game. You know what I mean? In addition to reading about the game, now you're in the game. I thought it was a clever notion. Your world as a producer, you have a background. Many of our viewers and listeners are out of San Francisco in the Bay Area in Northern California, and you have a history in that area also. We met years ago at KRON. It was NBC at that time, Channel 4. Have you been back up that way? Have you seen, the new Channel 4, the one that's been around now for a while? They're not NBC anymore. No.
I have not been up to the Bay Area in many, many years. The last time I was up there, it was still KRON.
Oh, wow.
It was still an NBC affiliate. So when I did go back, the last time that I did go back to the Bay Area was in Mill Valley. So I didn't actually go into the city. So it's been a while since I've been on Van Ness.
Yeah, that's. I think they've
Yeah.
torn down the building or something, haven't they, Kim? They tear down Kron, or they did some work on it or something. That hospital, the Zuckerberg General or whatever. I think that's next door. That Jack Tar Hotel isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's a hospital
Oh, wow.
now. Isn't that right, Kim? I believe that's it. Anyway, you come out of the creative arts, and you were doing the creative arts then, and you then just had this burgeoning career as a producer. And I feel as though now you've sort of returned to your calling. As you say, you're very highly educated in this area. Has there been a reception that you're happy with? Have people sparked to? I know you've done a number of these, in addition to the book, a number of these kinds of workshops on a practical level in person, I think, with people. Give me a sense of what the general sense of receptivity is toward your work.
I have heard so many times, and this includes the editor of my book. This book arrived at a time when I really needed it. So whether it's somebody that has taken a course from me, whether it's somebody who is at my publisher that's reading my book, proofreading it, or somebody that has read my book as a review, that is a consistent statement that has come back to me that I needed this book. It just landed at the right time.
Well, I think that many of us isolate obstacles in our lives from the rest of our life. And oftentimes the connections are there, but we're just overlooking them. We see it as an obstacle, an impediment, when it's actually part of a way we think, Right. So the book is Take a Shot at Happiness, Write, Direct, and Produce the Life You Want. And it's available wherever books are sold. Congratulations on it. I'm really excited, that you have another area of creativity that you've excelled in. You're an Emmy winner, and as I say, you produced all these many hours of television. It's really cool that you can get this going. Yeah. Well,
what my hope is that I am I'm inspiring people to become what I am, and that's a happiness explorer, someone who seeks to better understand themselves and what makes them happier. And when you do this consistently, which is what my book does, it guides you to look for positive moments throughout your daily life. And when you do this, and you do this on a consistent basis, you're creating a positive neural pathway towards the good. And then that eventually becomes your habit and reshapes your well-being.
Yeah, you talk about happiness and resilience as the same thing.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that real quick?
Yes. I feel that if you learn the virtues, qualities, and habits of happy people, which is what my book is all about, is that you have these tools. You have a way of recognizing, I think, sooner when you are going down a negative path. You now have the emotional tools to navigate those challenges and work through them quicker, and then get to the other side being more emotionally intact, which I think is huge. And I say this because this is how my life has gone. My life is a 180 from where I started.
Why do you say that? In what way?
Well, I was at a place when I made the choice to go on my journey. I was at a place in my life where I felt nothing was working. I felt my career wasn't where I wanted it to be. My personal life certainly wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I remember sitting in my Los Angeles office saying, this is not going to be a moment in my life that defines me. I'm not staying here. And I made the choice. I wanted to be happier and started to take action. And eventually I wrote a book. And that's what it is. So often I get asked, what is the key to happiness? And while there's many answers to that question, I think the real key to happiness is choice. backed by action. So you have to first want to and really understand what that means when you say, I choose happiness, because it's almost like it's a vow that you take every day. It's a choice that you make every day. And most of the time throughout the day. And sometimes, admittedly, it's easier than other times. But then you have to do something about it. You can't just say, oh, I want to be happy and sit on a couch. You need to go out there and you need to do the work. And it's a lot of work, but it's once you start seeing the benefits of it, it's the only way you want to be.
Yeah.
At least that's what
and it's a way of thinking. Is what I got from your book. I mean, like I didn't see it as a lot of work necessarily, but I get what you're saying. I mean, that you have to apply yourself for sure. Again, it's Take a Shot at Happiness. Maria Baltazzi's latest, and please come back and visit again. Always great to talk to you, and it's a good sort of end of year conversation to have. So at minimum, I'd love to have it annually. But really cool. Congratulations on the reception, clearly, and all the publicity, and really a pleasure to have you in on the show.
Thank you. It's always great to speak with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Maria Baltazzi, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.